There was one unforgettable occasion when the friendliness of a maid got just a little out of control. It was during one of my engagements in Louisville, Kentucky. I had a very nice suite of rooms in a charming hotel in a downtown area. The management had even brought in a brand new grand piano for the living room, on which I could practice in private. One day my musical director at the time, Gordon Robinson, asked if he could use the piano to rehearse a new aria with my singing star, Jean Fenn, of the Metropolitan Opera. Bright and early the next morning they arrived at the suite. I showed them into the living room, ordered some coffee, and told them to make themselves at home. They began rehearsing the lovely Un Bel Di from Puccini's Madame Butterfly. After excusing myself, I went into the bathroom, just off the master bedroom, hung my robe on the door, and proceeded with my morning ritual. I was sitting on the john, totally nude, when the maid entered the bathroom. Surprised and embarrassed, I asked her to leave. I may have been unnerved, but she obviously wasn't. Without making any move to go, she said, "I thought you were playing the piano." "As you can see, I'm not." "Well then, who is playing?" "My musical director," I said. By this time I was trying to hide myself by contorting my body into a fetal position. She was completely oblivious to the situation and went on, like a contestant even, in a game of 20 questions, while I stupidly sat there and answered her. She asked, "Who is that singing?" "That's Jean Fenn." She shook her head. "I don't believe I've ever heard of her." "She's with the Metropolitan Opera." What's the song she's singing?" "Un Bel Di." She frowned. "What's that mean?" "One fine day," I cried, still not believing what was happening. If there had been a chair handy, I'm sure she'd have pulled it over and sat down. "Is she going to sing in your show?" "She's planning to." "Will you be playing for her?" I nodded. She leaned over. "I don't suppose you could arrange a couple of complimentary tickets for me?" Shrinking back, I replied, "If you leave your name with me, I'll see what I can do." "I'll give it to you right now. Do you have a piece of paper that I can write it on?" "Not handy," I said, adding forcibly, "Perhaps you can leave it for me later. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd like to take a shower." She finally got the point. "Okay." And as she reached for the door, she turned and asked, "Will I see you later?" I nodded. Yes, later. Before I could get up and lock the door, she was back in the room. "I brought you some extra towels." "Thank you," I said, grabbing one and trying to cover myself. After she'd left, I was finally able to take my shower. After dressing, I hurriedly went into the living room, calling, "Gordon, Jean, you won't believe this." I told them the whole story. Jean said, "I'll never be able to sing Un Bel Di again without thinking about what happened to you in your bathroom." They both began to laugh hysterically, and that was the end of that rehearsal for another day.